If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description.
Calma! Eu não tenho culpa. Eu nem sei por que estão atrás de mim. Eu só quero que tudo isso acabe.
E como boas usuárias de magia, em uma batalha de dança mágica!
And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed.
Sophie, Starlight Whispers caught my eye right away. The pixel art, the hand-drawn backgrounds, the whole dreamy vibe. And something about a young girl wandering through these fantastical worlds took me straight back to my childhood, when I'd skip school, sneak back into my house, and rewatch Labyrinth on VHS for the 100th time. So when the trailer promised magical chaos exploding across the screen, this was an instant yes for me. But what is Sophie, Starlight Whispers exactly? You play as Sophie, a teenage girl in a magical world who discovers she can wield a rare kind of magic, a gift that immediately puts her in the crosshairs of O Senor das Sombras, the Lord of Shadows. From there, it becomes a race to protect her family, her friends, and maybe the entire world. So the question is this Metroidvania truly magical, or is it all just smoke and mirrors?
Combat.
Unlike Jennifer Connelly's Sarah in Labyrinth, Sophie's a little more hands-on when it comes to facing her foes. Whenever a bat or skeleton comes a-calling, Sophie's sword answers. She has a basic swing she can do on the ground and in the air, and that's the gist of her basic attacks. She eventually gets a dash with iframes. This meter dictates how many dashes she can do, and doing an air dash completely depletes the meter, which is smart because it stops you from having a quadruple jump. Sophie also has an Estus Flask type heal that recharges at save points, and you can increase its charges by finding and equipping new bottles. So essentially, everything I've described about combat up to this point is pretty basic stuff. Where things get interesting is in Sophie's magic. Sophie can equip spells to 4 different buttons, once she unlocks every slot. To use your spells, you have to hold the right trigger to start charging. Each spell comes in 2 forms, uncharged and charged. For instance, this Crystal Shard spell. If you hold the trigger and cast it immediately, Sophie fires off 2 crystals that do damage on contact. But if you fully charge the spell, she shoots out like 6 crystals instead. Almost every spell has these 2 forms, so pulling off a fully charged spell can make a huge difference in the heat of battle. Thankfully, you can still attack and do all your other actions while charging, so you won't be defenseless as you build up your spells. And there's no mana or MP meters. Each spell comes with a cooldown, making me actually want to cast magic. As for the spells themselves, they're pretty dang cool. They come in 4 categories: offensive, medicinal, spatial, and psychic. Offensive spells are your attack spells, like the crystal ball from earlier, or a fireball that chases enemies down. Medicinal is healing, spatial deals with time manipulation and traversal options like creating platforms to jump off of, and psychic lets you do things like highlighting collectibles in an area. You collect spells mainly from chests hidden around the world, and there are some really cool and unique spells out there that make experimentation and combat interesting. My one issue is that the game never really puts you in any scenarios where experimenting with the more unique spells is necessary. You'd think the bosses would offer up some kind of challenge where you'd need to flex your brain and see what you can pull off with all these spells, but most boss encounters were tank and spanks, at least for me. Between all the healing charges I got and the healing spells, I rarely leaned on magic to do much. And it's a shame because some of these spells are kinda neat, like the one that lets you swap places with your clone and the one where you can charm an enemy to fight for you. I feel Sophie's combat has a lot of untapped potential. It gives you lots of toys to play with, but I never really felt like I needed to play with any of them. This could just be me though. I'm the kind of guy who finds a weapon early on, gets decent with it, and refuses to try new weapons because I'm already good with the weapon I have. But if you're the type who loves tinkering with every new toy they find in a game, Sophie has a lot you can tinker with. And that's it for combat. Sophie's combat ends up feeling like a box full of cool toys that the game never quite gives you the need to play with. The sword, the dash, and the healing flask are enough to get the job done. Still, if you're the kind of player who loves tinkering, experimenting, and squeezing every drop of potential out of a moveset, Sophie gives you plenty of room to be creative. It just depends on whether you're the type to stick with what works, or the type who can't resist trying every shiny new spell you find.
Abilities, platforming.
Sophie's platforming is something. Sophie herself moves great. Smooth momentum, solid physics, no complaints here. The problem isn't her, it's the world she's trying to move through, and for me, that boils down to two things. One, every area and every biome is absolutely massive, and two, some of these biomes are so visually busy they're hard to read. First, the giant rooms. Take this with a grain of salt because this is definitely a preference thing, but I'm not a fan of every room being massive scrolling affairs. It gives me cognitive overload. I want to explore every inch of every area in a Metroidvania, and when every area is huge, it just kind of drains me after a while. I gotta remember if I've been here yet or not. What about this corner? Did I check that shady spot yet? It just becomes too much for me after so long. I like variety in my room sizes. It helps with pacing. Now you might be thinking, big areas, that's not so bad. But consider my next issue, the visual busyness. I'm not trying to be rude here, and I'd like to preface this by saying the game's backgrounds are creative and look great. But some biomes are so busy that it's hard to even know which surfaces I can even stand on. Now, in hindsight, I see that this issue really hits hard in the game's first major biome, and it's not a great introduction. Again, this could be a me thing, but I had so much trouble figuring out where to even go. Maybe that was the point. I'll let you decide if that's a good or a bad thing. I'll just reassure you that things get better on the eyes as the game moves along. The game has a lot of biome gimmicks to contend with, too. Slippery ice, wind, poisonous gas, bottomless pits that will kill you, and darkness on many occasions. This makes each biome memorable, but sometimes the gimmick is taken too far. The asylum biome would have had me pulling my hair out if I had any. You have to navigate complete darkness with only a little light around you. You need to find a plug and an outlet to restore power so you can open the exit doors, and this stupid ghost keeps stealing your plug and you have to chase him down and get it back. It's actually a cool idea and the ghost is pretty funny from a trolling perspective, but you have to do this like 7 times. It gets old and I just wanted it to end. Okay, I've said a lot of negative things about the platforming, but there's lots to like here too. I mentioned how Sophie controls well already, but I also really like how the spatial magic spells come with some traversal tech, like the platform you can make that lowers gravity. That's really creative, and there's even gear that can help you get around, like the witch shoes that let me float. The game really has some great ideas and likes to provide helpful tools in unexpected ways. I just really wish there were more platforming sections with some bite to them. There's the one on the beach that acts like an obstacle course, but that's pretty much it. Platforming is just not this game's priority, and I think that's a miss because we have all these cool magic spells and no fun scenarios to use them. And that's it for this section. Sophie's platforming ends up being a mix of great character control wrapped in environments that don't always support it. The oversized rooms, the early game visual noise, and a few overcooked biome gimmicks can make traversal feel more exhausting than exciting. But the game also throws in some genuinely clever ideas, from gravity-bending platforms to floaty witch shoes, that hint at a much more playful platformer hiding underneath. In the end, Sophie has the tools for something special. The world just doesn't give those tools enough moments to shine. If you're here for tight movement and creative traversal tools, there's fun to be had, just don't expect the platforming to be the star of the show.
Progression.
Sophie has a lot of opportunities for player expression. From the spells you find to the gear you equip on her, you can make your magical girl a destructive wizard or a brutish barbarian. Firstly, there's no skill trees, nor is there any leveling up. Stats are only affected by your gear, except HP. You increase that by finding fruit hidden around the world. Sophie has 3 stats: physical damage, magical damage, and luck, which probably affects your crit chance and item drops, as items and gear come in different rarities from common all the way up to legendary and mystic, like this were a gacha game. Sophie has 4 slots for her gear, 1 for a sword and 3 for accessories, with each piece of gear affecting 1 or all of your 3 stats and granting Sophie a special property, like the floaty shoes I mentioned earlier. Eventually you'll unlock a blacksmith who can upgrade your weapons, making them stronger or adding special properties. I don't want to go into detail as I want to keep some of the mystery alive, but blacksmithing isn't too difficult to figure out, and the materials you need to upgrade are typically dropped from defeated enemies. The game also has quite a few side quests, some game spanning and others not as dedicated. There are fetch quests, scavenger hunts, hide and seek with snakes, a globe-trotting quest where you fight a xenophobic dwarf. There's some variety here, and quests are always fun and rewarding. That's it for progression. Sophie's progression gives you a lot of freedom in shaping her playstyle. With no levels or skill trees to worry about, your build comes entirely from the gear you equip, the spells you discover, and the upgrades you hunt down. Between stat boosting accessories, weapon upgrades at the blacksmith, and a surprisingly fun mix of side quests, there's always something new pushing you forward. Whether you want to hit harder, cast smarter, or just chase every quirky quest the world throws at you, Sophie gives you plenty of ways to express yourself and rewards you for digging into its systems.
Exploration.
Sophie's world, called Sharon, is dreamlike with a lot of beauty and a lot of diversity. From enchanted forests with glowing mushrooms, to a beach housing giant crabs and pirates, to an insane asylum full of tortured experiments, there's a lot to see in Sharon. As you can tell, the game has some fun places to explore and a lot of area to cover in each biome. But thoroughly combing through each room comes with lots of rewards, like legendary gear that pumps your stats to insane heights, or new magic spells that can literally break the game and make boss encounters a walk in the park. Some areas have these chests that require you to destroy 3 crystals in that area in order to open it, and they always had the best loot. So yeah, I'd say I liked exploring Sharon. I thought areas were a little too big and some biome gimmicks were a little overplayed, but overall, it's a cool world to get lost in. Sophie's adventure is pretty linear. You can explore a lot of areas once the game opens up a little, but you'll be gated mostly for story reasons. To be honest, I almost didn't even consider Sophie Starlight Whispers to be a Metroidvania because it almost doesn't have any ability gating. It does, but it's very minimal. There's only one ability you officially unlock, and it kinda comes out of nowhere. Every other traversal ability you find will be linked to spells and gear and are more nice to haves than actual necessities. This isn't a big deal because Sophie is still a fantastic adventure, but I can see Metroidvaniers who are looking to scratch that MV itch being a little let down with how linear the game is. As for the in-game map, I was not a fan. It's a bunch of blocks with lines connecting them. It is functional though. There's no detail, but it still shows you where you are in a room, and it shows you where your next objective is. And apparently, it uses colors on its boxes to indicate if you found everything in that room or not. But I didn't realize that until a buddy over on my Discord pointed it out. Oops. Fast travel was perfect though. Every save point you activate becomes a fast travel point, and that's always the best way to do it in my opinion. And that's it for exploration. Sophie's world is gorgeous, varied, and full of reasons to poke into every corner. Even if it's oversized rooms, light ability gating, sometimes get in the way. Sharon is still a fun place to explore thanks to its creative biomes, powerful loot, and game-breaking spells, but players craving traditional Metroidvania exploration may find the linear structure a bit tame. The maps aren't ideal, but fast travel is excellent, and the sheer charm of each biome makes wandering worthwhile. Overall, exploration in Sophie isn't perfect, but the world is imaginative enough that getting lost in it still feels rewarding.
Atmosphere. Narrative.
Atmosphere and narrative are probably Sophie's strongest aspects. As a character, I think Sophie is fantastic. She's relatable, funny, and best of all, flawed. She's hot-headed, petty, and gullible, but she also grows and becomes a better person as the story moves along. How do I know this? Because this game yaps.
Seja bem-vinda, Sophie.
Ué? Cadê a gatinha?
Eu sou a bruxa de Charan. Você já deve ter ouvido.
Você é a bruxa? Por que você...
Velha? Quem disse isso? Eu nem cheguei aos 1000 anos ainda. Ai, mal... Enfim.
There are a ton of cutscenes with characters speaking during gameplay, lore you have to figure out, how to translate. There's a lot of story and exposition to get through. Thankfully, it's fully voice acted in Portuguese. But even as a native English speaker with zero understanding of Portuguese, I still liked hearing the characters speak as I read along.
Mas por que não querem me escutar? É tudo verdade. Eu vi como precisamos acabar com a família real. Por que não...
Sophie, chega! Já sabemos que você inventou tudo e que foi até o castelo atacar o príncipe Henrique por ele não te querer como príncipe. A Lívia, a verdadeira princesa de Charan, nos contou tudo.
Hearing the characters' emotional tones added a lot to the experience. The overall atmosphere was right up my alley. Magical girl in a magical world is one of my favorite tropes, and the mix of phantasmagorical scenery with more grounded, realistic environments is always fun to see. The game loves tossing you into something mundane before blindsiding you with the mystical, only to drop you right back into reality again. That kind of environmental whiplash keeps you on your toes, and I really enjoyed it. The actual narrative is pretty good. I have my critiques. The game loves using its power of yap to tell you exactly what to do and where to go, which gets kind of boring, and not every plot point landed for me, but for what the story was aiming for, I think it ultimately succeeded. Sophie herself is incredibly endearing, and while the ending left me a little confused on a contextual level, it hit me emotionally, and that resonance mattered more. That's it for this section. Sophie's atmosphere and narrative ultimately shined thanks to its endearing lead, rich emotional tone, and a world that constantly shifts between the mundane and the mystical. Even with all the yapping, occasional over-explanation, and a few plot beats that didn't fully land, the story's heart comes through. The Portuguese voice acting adds warmth, the environmental whiplash keeps things engaging, and the emotional payoff sticks long after the details fade.
Final thoughts and score.
Sophie Starlight Whispers is a game overflowing with charm, creativity, and heart. Its strongest pillars are its atmosphere and narrative, carried by a wonderfully flawed, endearing protagonist and a world that constantly dances between the mundane and the mystical. The Portuguese voice acting adds emotional texture, and the visual design, while occasionally too busy for its own good, delivers some striking and memorable environments. Combat offers a treasure chest of cool spells and ideas, even if the game rarely pushes you to use them, and the platforming mixes great character control with environments that don't always support it. Exploration is linear but rewarding, progression is flexible and expressive, and the overall adventure feels handcrafted with genuine passion. Despite some pacing bumps, oversized rooms, and underutilized mechanics, the experience remains engaging, imaginative, and absolutely worth your time. I award Sophie Starlight Whispers a 7.5 out of 10. Sophie Starlight Whispers is available on PC and all major consoles. I played the game exclusively on the Steam Deck with zero issues, and therefore give it a Steam Deck rating of verified.
Pair placement.
Sophie Starlight Whispers has MV flavor, but not MV structure. Combat gives you tons of spells and gear, but rarely pushes you to use them, and the platforming, while Sophie herself feels great, is held back by oversized rooms and very little creativity. Exploration is rewarding, but very linear with almost no ability gating. What does shine is the atmosphere and narrative. Sophie is a fantastic lead, the world swings beautifully between mundane and mystical, and the emotional beats land. Sophie Starlight Whispers flies into the C tier. A charming, imaginative adventure with MV elements, just not a mechanically strong Metroidvania. And that is my Sophie-cial opinion